Hello there and welcome to a brand new lesson. This is How Beyond Numbers, where we learn maths the easy way. In this lesson, we are looking at the equation of a straight line. And by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to recognize and use the three main forms of a straight line equation and among others as well. So without much ado, let's quickly look into it. So let's quickly look at an overview of the three main forms. The first one we'll be looking at is the slope-intercept form. Among all the three forms, this is the popular one you often learn when you want to start learning equations of a line. So it is written as y equals mx then plus c. So the m is what we call the gradient. Now take note that the gradient is also the slope of the line. And then we have the c. So the c is what we call the intercept, the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is where the line cuts the y-axis. You see, and the gradient, as we spoke about in our previous lesson, simply has to do with the steepness of the line. Now, in which cases do we actually use the slope-intercept form? So as I said earlier on, this form is used when you know the gradient and the y-intercept of the line. And secondly, we use this form a lot when you want to draw a graph easily. That is why I said when you want to study the equation of a line, this is the very first one you use because it helps you plot your graph or the line on the graph very, very easily. Let's look at some example of this form. So an example of this form will be what we have here. That is y equals 4x minus 3. In this case, we have our gradient m being 4 and then your c being what? Negative 3. So we say the y-intercept is what? At negative 3. To write it as a coordinate, then for y-intercept, the x value is 0 and the y value is negative 3. That is if you want to write the y-intercept as a coordinate. Now there is one thing I didn't talk about. That is your x and your y. So the x and y you see in this equation refers to the respective points on the line. So if you substitute your x and your y, they satisfy this equation. That is, if the points lie on the line. So that's the first form of an equation of a line. Let's look at the next one we call the standard form. So this is the second form, which we call the standard form. The standard form of an equation is what? Ax plus by plus c equals 0. If you want to make the variables stand on their own and then take the constant to the other side, then we can rewrite it as what? Ax plus by plus. We can rewrite it as what? Ax plus by equals c. Now the c is a constant. That is why we don't even put a negative there. They are all constant. So most of the times we use this form in examination and then most importantly in simultaneous equation. So anytime we want to solve simultaneous equations, we change the equations of the line into this form so that we can actually solve for them. Mind you, if an equation is written in the standard form, let's say as ax plus by is equal to c, you can still change it into what? The slope-intercept form. Likewise, if it is in the slope-intercept form, you can as well change it into the standard form. Changing it into the slope-intercept form simply means you want to make y the subject. You see, in making y the subject, you are going to get a by being equal to an ax plus c with your negative here. So making our b the subject, we have our y being equal to a negative a over b with our x plus c over what? your b, that is dividing both sides by your b. And at the end, it is the same as y equals mx plus c. So we consider the negative a over b all as what? The gradient, which is written as m. And then c over a as c, which is still a constant. You see? So it doesn't matter the form you have it in. You can always change it into the other form to suit what you want to work out. So to try that out, let's just take this we have here. It says, rewrite in slope-intercept form 2x plus 3y minus 6 equals 0. So we have 2x, then plus 3y minus 6 is equal to 0. Now, as you have seen, this is written in the standard form. This is an equation of a line written in the standard form. It could either be this or the 2x plus 3y is equal to 6. Any of these can be said to be in the standard form. But the question here is we want to change it into the slope-intercept form. So we know that for the slope-intercept form, it is written as what? Y equals mx plus c. That is just making y the subject. The coefficient of y should be what? 1. So with what we have, which is 2x plus 3y minus 6 equals 0, to move so that y stands on its own, we are first of all going to move the negative, the 2x, and then we also move the 6 as well. So that in turn we'll be left with 3x on the left hand side, which is then equal to a negative 2x and then plus a 6. With this, we'll then have to divide each and every term by the 3. So we have negative 2x divided by 3. Then we have the 6 as well divided by 3. And then we do our further simplification. So simplifying, we have the 3 cancelling out the 3. And this 3 dividing 6 twice. So what do we have left? We have the y being equal to, for this, we can rewrite it as negative 2 over 3 with an x, then plus our 2. Now, if we are to compare this we have here to the slope-intercept form, then what would be our observation? It simply means our c is the 2, and then our m is the negative 2 over 3. That is, m equals negative 2 over 3, and then c is equal to what? 2. Very, very simple. So as I have said, you can change or interchange the various forms to suit your solution. Now, with that said, we want to look at the next form of writing an equation of a line, and that is the point slope form. So talking of the point slope form, the point slope form is what? Y minus y1 equals m into bracket m minus x1, m into bracket x minus x1. Now, as we have known by now, the m is always your gradient. So with m being our gradient, what then is our x1 and then y1? The x1 and y1 is simply a point on the line. Now, this is to tell you that if you know the gradient of a line and you have at least one point that the line passes through, you can write the equation of the line. You see, so the equation of the line you can write is what we call the point slope form. You have the point, that is the x1, y1, and you also have the slope. You see, so we say this form is useful when you know one point and the gradient, just as I've explained. And secondly, it is useful when you want a quick setup before converting to other forms. Right from this form over here, you can change it into what? The point slope, the slope-intercept form. And right also from this point, you can also change it to the standard form. Just by getting a point and then a gradient, you can do what? get a quick setup before converting to the other forms. With that said, let's look at how quick this point slope form can help us get an equation by solving some few questions. So the question we have here says, find the equation of a line with gradient 3 and then passing through the point 2, 5. What do we know? We know the gradient to be what? 3. And at least we have a point. So we call that x1 and then y1. We have that to be what? 2, 5. Remember, for the slope intercept, we need what? The slope and the intercept. But do we have any of those here? No, we don't. But then at least we have the gradient and one point the line passes through. Hence, we can use the what? The point slope form. Now, the point slope form says all you need is what? Your y minus y1, which is equal to m into bracket x minus x1. So substituting, you always take note that your y and then the x are variables. You don't substitute them. So we have y minus our y1. In this case, our y1 becomes what? The 5. So y minus 5 equals your m, which is your 3, then into bracket x, which in this case is still x minus x1. So your x1 is the 2. So minus 2. This here is the equation of the line written as what? The point slope. But if you want to go on further to write it as the slope intercept form, then that is you making your y the subject. So with y minus 5 being equal to 3 into bracket x minus 2, making y the subject, we have our y being equal to, so first of all, we have to remove the bracket. So y minus 5 equals 3 times x, which is 3x, and then 3 times negative 2, which gives us a negative 6. Making y the subject, we have y being equal to our 3x minus 6. Then the negative 6, the negative 5 moves to the other side to become a positive 5. Simplifying further, we have our y being equal to a 3x. Negative 6 plus 5 gives us a negative 1. And with that, we have been able to write it as the what? The slope intercept form. Just by first of all writing it as what? The point slope. So as we said, if you want a quick setup before converting to other forms, then the point slope would be one of the best options. I wouldn't explain, but if you were to write it in the standard form, then it would have been a negative 3x plus y equals negative 1, or a negative 3x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0. That is writing it in the standard form. These are the three main forms of writing the equation of a line. Now, there are some special cases we need to be aware of. That is the equation of vertical and horizontal lines. Because of the special properties horizontal and vertical lines have, there are special ways we write their equations. When we talk of a vertical line, then it is a line of this form. You see, so if it is vertical, then we say the gradient is infinity or it is not defined. If a line is horizontal, then it is of this form. So a horizontal line has a gradient of 0. And because of these two properties, as I said earlier on, you write their equations differently. Hence, let's look at the first one, which is a horizontal line. To talk of a horizontal line or the equation of a horizontal line, let's first consider the slope-intercept form. That is y equals mx plus c. Now, with respect to the explanation I just gave, I said for a horizontal line, then our gradient m is equal to what? 0. So if gradient m is equal to 0, then it will imply that our y will be equal to, with this being 0, we have 0 times x, which then becomes what? 0. So our y would be equal to just a c. And this is the equation of a horizontal line. So talking of a horizontal line, then if I have my Cartesian plane here, and then I draw this line on it, this horizontal line is going to have an equation written as y equals, so it says y equals c. This c is just the intercept. So remember we said the c is always the y-intercept. So the c is the point where the line touches the y-axis. So we'll call this line y equals 2. As simple as that. You see, so if I was to have this same line rather here, you see, it is a horizontal line. There's going to be a y equals, where does it touch our y-axis? A -1. You see, so for all the horizontal lines, you just use y equals, then the y-intercept. So if I'm to have this line, then it's going to be a y equals 5. This is going to be a y equals 3.5. You see, so in that order, that is the horizontal line for you. The next one is the vertical line. Now, for a vertical line, its equation is of the form x equals a. So just as for a horizontal line, we say it is of the form y equals c. For a vertical line, the equation is x equals a. Take note, the gradient of a vertical line is undefined and it doesn't even have a y-intercept. Hence, if I'm to have a Cartesian plane, so for a Cartesian plane of this form, if I'm to have a vertical line over here, so as I said earlier on, for a vertical line, it is not going to touch the y-axis. See, so to name the vertical line, all we say is, since it is not going to touch the y-axis, it is an x equals, then the x-intercept, that is where it touches the x, will then going to be what you have here. So x equals 2, as you can see here. So the same way, if I was rather to have the line here, if I was to have the line somewhere around here, so as you can see, it passes through the -5. So the equation of this line is going to be x equals a -5. It is not always an integer. Sometimes it can also be what? A decimal as well. So if I'm to bring it here, that is between the 3 and the -2, the equation of that line is going to be what? And x equals a -2.5. As simple as that. So on that note, these are the various forms of writing equation of a line. If there's any issue of concern, you can always let me know at the comment section and I'll address that for you. So as usual, I'll leave with some exercises just to test your understanding on all that we've done so far. These are just 5 questions. The first one, you have to use the point loop form to write the equation with these parameters, and then for all, you've been given the parameters and then you've been given the instructions on what to do. Just have beyond numbers or learn maths the easy way. If this lesson was of help and this is your first time on this channel and you think it will be of help to you, you can choose to subscribe if you so do wish, so that anytime I release a video, you'll be notified as well. See you in our next lesson. Bye for now. Stay blessed.